She was still breathing. Barely. Bick. The room flickered in and out of clarity, like someone was toggling reality. The girl's tiny hand clutched the puppy's fur, knuckles white with fear, eyes swollen from crying. Her mother had screamed only minutes before, but now only silence wrapped the dimly lit hallway. Blood from the shattered photo frame still trailed along the wall. No one moved. Not even the wind dared to whisper. And in the middle of it all, the puppy stared up at the girl, as if understanding something no child should ever have to say. "Don't tell Mommy," she had whispered, voice trembling. Her lips had brushed his floppy ear with a secret so heavy it weighed down his entire body. He blinked, then nudged her cheek as tears streaked her face. That night, something changed. Not in the world, but in him. Because what she whispered wasn't just a secret. It was a command. And he heard it. And he would obey. The clock had stopped at 11:08 p.m. No ticking. No sound. Just the soft hum of a storm beginning to form outside. The girl's chest rose faintly. Her fingers, still tangled in the puppy's collar, pulsed with nervous energy. She hadn't moved since the whisper. The puppy didn't either. He remained at her side, head up, eyes fixed on the door across the hall. It creaked slightly, like it was breathing. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard groaned. But the girl's lips didn't part. She knew that noise. That pattern. That presence. The puppy's ears perked. Low growl. Not anger. Warning. Then silence again. The hallway seemed to stretch longer than it was. Her mother had left her there. Not by accident. Not in confusion. But with purpose. A punishment. A silence. A promise she wouldn't break. But the puppy had heard her. And tonight he would not let her wait alone. He was only 8 months old. He didn't understand much. Except love. And fear. And silence. The girl had wrapped her arms around him every night since the shelter. Her laughter had been his lullaby. But tonight, no laughter came. Only whispers. The secret wasn't long. Just a few words. But in those words was a name. A plea. A cry that didn't sound like a cry. The puppy didn't move from her side. But inside, something shifted. His nose twitched. The scent in the hallway had changed. Metallic. Sharp. .e. The kind that made animals freeze. He remembered it from before. Back when cages rattled and hands grabbed and no one cared if you whimpered. Ah. That same smell. It was here. Again. And this time, it wasn't on strangers. It was in their home. His home. And it smelled like danger. Downstairs, something moved. Not loudly. But enough. The puppy's ears twitched. He didn't bark. Not yet. He stood slowly, careful not to wake the girl. His paws padded soundlessly over the wooden floor as he approached the hallway's edge. The light from the living room flickered again. Static on the old television. A news anchor's voice glitched between syllables. He paused. Watched. Waited. A dark figure passed by the hallway entrance. The puppy lowered his body, growl swelling but held back. Not yet. Not without knowing. But in his chest, his heart pounded. His body remembered what fear smelled like. And whoever had walked past, it wasn't the girl's mother. She stirred. A soft whimper escaped her lips as her hands searched for him in the dark. But he was gone. Just a few steps away, watching the living room from the shadows. He turned back once. Just once. Her eyes met his for a fleeting second, barely open, soaked with fear, but filled with trust. He dipped his head. A promise made. He turned again and walked toward the unknown, tail low but steady. Because she had told him something no one else knew. And now it was his turn to act. Not as a puppy, but as her protector. Before tonight, his world was simple. He knew warm blankets, belly rubs, and the soft hum of the girls' lullabies. Mornings began with pancakes on the floor, afternoons in the backyard, chasing sunbeams, and evenings curled in the crook of her arm as she read aloud to him. Her laughter was his favorite sound. Her scent, soap and peanut butter, was safety. He didn't know what pain meant, not really. The shelter was a blur now, a flicker of metal bars and wet concrete, but she had erased it all. She made him feel like he mattered. When she giggled, he wagged. When she cried, he stayed. Every part of him had been rewired by her touch. So tonight, when her voice cracked into that whisper, he knew it wasn't play. Something had changed. His tail didn't wag. His ears stood tall. And his heart remembered, he wasn't born to protect. But now, he would. The first time he met her, she was sitting alone on a bench at the shelter, clutching a stuffed rabbit, missing an eye. He remembered how her legs swung back and forth, too small for the seat, and how she didn't look up when others passed. But when he stopped in front of her kennel, tail between his legs, eyes searching, she looked. Really looked. She whispered, "You look like someone who needs a hug." And she gave him one. Right through the bars. No hesitation. The staff said she was quiet. Reserved. They whispered when adults walked by. But he knew better. She wasn't shy. She was waiting for someone who could carry her quiet. And so he did. That day forward, they chose each other. She needed someone soft. He needed someone safe. They never let go. At first, he thought she was just quiet. But the truth was deeper. She was broken in places grown-ups didn't notice. Her eyes didn't sparkle like other kids. They scanned for safe spots, for sudden movements, for silence between slammed doors. The puppy learned quickly to follow her cues. If she flinched, he barked. If she laughed, he danced. But most days, they sat in stillness, sharing something no one else seemed to see. The girl never explained her bruises, and he never asked. But he smelled the fear, heard the crying behind closed doors. And each time, he would sit beside her, nose on her knee, waiting for the tremble to stop. He couldn't change her world, but he could soften it. And sometimes, that was enough. She had taught him to be brave, not with loud commands or flashy tricks, but with quiet moments. When the thunder shook the walls, she'd hold his ears and hum. When strangers came too close, she'd kneel beside him and whisper, "It's okay, I've got you." And somehow he believed her, because her voice never lied. It wobbled sometimes, broke often, but it never lied. That voice was his anchor. And now, that anchor had cracked. That whisper, tonight's whisper, was different. It didn't calm. It didn't soothe. It pierced. There was no hum, no warmth, only dread. That was when he understood. This wasn't a moment to hide under the bed. This was the moment to stand up, to do for her what she always did for him. He remembered the last time she had whispered like that. It was after the loudest slam yet. Her hand shook as she held his face, pulling him close until her nose touched his. "Promise me," she had said, voice no louder than a breath. "If anything happens, you'll stay with me." He had licked her cheek in reply. She smiled then, barely, but it lit her face like sunrise. That was the first time he realized he had a job. Not just to play, not just to cuddle, but to protect. Tonight, when she whispered again, it wasn't a memory, it was a trigger. A signal. And that time he didn't lick her. He stood, watched, waited. And he walked toward the storm. The living room had changed. Not in furniture or layout, but in atmosphere. The moment he stepped in, the air thickened. The TV flickered static with no sound, casting erratic shadows that crawled across the walls. A broken cup lay on the rug, dark liquid, staining the floorboards. The smell was sharp, bitter. He remembered it from the night a man had shouted in the shelter before cages clanged shut and dogs whimpered. That smell, fear mixed with alcohol. He lowered his body, ears back, nose twitching rapidly. Then, movement. A man sat slumped in the armchair, one shoe off, head tilted unnaturally. Not asleep. Watching. Breathing. The puppy stopped moving. This wasn't the girl's father. He hadn't been home in weeks. This was someone else. And the girl's mother? She wasn't here either. Not yet. But he knew she would come. And this man, he didn't belong. The puppy crept forward, one paw at a time, silent as breath. The man shifted, muttering something to no one. Empty bottles clinked at his feet. The puppy paused, nose twitching. He could smell her, faint but present. The girl's mother had been here. Recently. The couch still held the shape of someone curled in fear. He could smell the fear. Sharp, salty, panicked. Then he saw it. A hair clip. Her favorite. Shaped like a blue butterfly. It lay broken near the base of the stairs. The puppy moved toward it, gently sniffed. Whimpered. She had been hurt. He knew that scent too. Then the man looked up. Slowly. Eyes glassy but focused now. And he smiled. It wasn't a smile of kindness. It was the kind of smile that makes even dogs know to run. But the puppy didn't run. He stayed. The man stood slowly, wobbling, his hand dragging along the wall for balance. The puppy backed away, silent, paws spread for grip. His instinct screamed to hide, to flee. But the whisper in his ear kept him still. He turned slightly, looking back down the hall. The girl was still there, still breathing, still waiting. Her trust wrapped around him like a shield. So he turned back, stood his ground. The man stumbled forward, muttering something cruel. The puppy growled low, not loud, not threatening. Just a warning. The man laughed. But not with joy, with cruelty. Then he raised his arm. The puppy flinched. It wasn't the first time someone had done that. But this time, he didn't cower. He barked. Chow. Loud. Dull. Sharp, dotty. It echoed down the hall like thunder. The house shook with a new kind of energy. This wasn't fear. It was defiance. The girl stirred. A sharp bark pierced her daze, and her eyes fluttered open. At first, she didn't know where she was. Her head hurt. Her arm ached. But then, another bark. The puppy. She sat up slowly, leaning on her side. Down the hallway, light flickered. She couldn't see him, but she heard him, growling, standing his ground. Her breath caught. He had stayed. Just like she asked. Just like he promised. Then came the man's voice. Slurred, ugly. Her heart pounded. He was here. Again. She tried to stand but couldn't. So she called, barely above a whisper, "Come back." Silence. Her eyes filled with tears. But in her chest, hope flickered. Because she knew him. Knew what that bark meant. He wasn't leaving her. He was protecting her. The man stumbled again, shouting now, angry that the dog didn't run. "Stupid mutt," he slurred, throwing a bottle that smashed inches from the puppy's head. Glass scattered like ice. The puppy flinched but didn't move. His bark turned into a snarl. Behind him, the stairs stood open. An escape. He didn't take it. Instead, he moved forward. One step. Then another. The man raised his foot, threatening a kick, but then froze. The puppy had changed. His eyes no longer looked like a pet's. They burned. And in that moment, the man realized this wasn't a game. The puppy wasn't afraid. He was ready. Because she had whispered her truth. And now, he was carrying it, like armor. She arrived home to silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that pressed against the skin like cold water. Her key barely turned before the door creaked open on its own. One heel off, one in her hand. The girl's mother stepped into the house she no longer recognized. Her coat hung half on, rain still dripping from her sleeves. Her eyes went first to the broken bottle, then to the footprints in spilled wine, then then to the hair clip. Her fingers trembled. That wasn't there when she left. Panic rose in her throat, thick and acidic. "Anna," she called, voice cracking. No answer. She stepped forward, slow, calculating, scared of what she already knew. Then she heard it. A low snarl. Not from a stranger. From the puppy. Her daughter's puppy. Her hand dropped the heel with a thud. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. She moved faster now. Past the hallway, past the flickering TV, her hand bracing against the wall for balance. And then, she saw him. The man she thought she had left behind months ago. Sitting. Ow. Grinning. "Miss me," he said, voice soaked in venom. Her stomach dropped. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered, but her voice carried no strength. He stood wobbling with confidence. "This is my house too." It wasn't. Not legally. Not morally. Not anymore. She shook her head, backing away. Then she saw it, the puppy, standing between them. Small. Defiant. Barking without fear. The man took a step forward. The puppy matched him. She didn't speak. Couldn't. Her world had just collapsed again. But in the middle of that collapse, something else was standing tall. He took a step toward her. She flinched. Reflex. Her hand went to her wrist, the one he once fractured. Her eyes darted to the stairs. Anna. Powell. She needed to get to Anna. But he saw it. The shift. "Don't," he said. "You walk away again, and I'll." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. The puppy growled louder now, a warning sharp as glass. And then it happened. He lunged. Not at her. At the puppy. Fast. Ugly. The answer wall. A blur of motion. But the puppy was faster. He moved, not back, but sideways, toward the hallway, away from danger, but still in sight. Drawing the man with him. Her eyes widened. He was leading him away, giving her a chance. A split-second window. She ran. What? She reached the girl in seconds that felt like years. Dropping to her knees, she scooped Anna into her arms. The girl whimpered, but her eyes lit up when she saw her mother. "Mommy," she whispered. "You came back?" That broke her. Shattered her. "Always," she said, pressing her lips to her daughter's forehead. But the moment didn't last. A crash from the hallway. A bark. A snarl. She turned, heart thudding. The man was still chasing him. The puppy. The dog that had kept her daughter safe. And now, he was in danger. She looked at her child, who clutched her tighter. And for the first time, the mother realized, he wasn't just a dog. He was family. And no one hurts family. The hallway echoed with the sounds of growls, shouts, and a final desperate crash. Then, silence. Her breath caught. She stood, holding her daughter, every step trembling as she made her way to the noise. And there he was. The puppy. Standing atop the man's chest, one paw pressed to his shoulder, growling low and steady. The man groaned, trying to sit up, but didn't. Couldn't. A shattered lamp beside him flickered out. The puppy looked up at her, then back down to him. He didn't attack. He didn't run. He just stood guard. She met his eyes, and for the first time in years she felt safe. Not because the threat was gone, but because something small, loyal, and brave had stood its ground, when she couldn't. The house had gone still again. Not with peace, but the stillness after a storm. The mother sat beside Anna, holding her tightly, her eyes scanning the hallway for any more threats. The puppy finally lay down, chest heaving, eyes still trained on the man's motionless form. "What did you tell him?" the mother whispered gently, brushing the hair from Anna's face. The girl blinked slowly, voice hoarse. "I told him the truth." Her mother stilled. "What truth, baby?" Anna's fingers curled into the puppy's fur. "That it was him," she said. The one who used to hurt you. The room tilted. The world shifted. The mother's mouth opened, but no sound came. I saw, Anna added. I remember. Her voice was calm. Not angry. Not scared. Just certain. The puppy whined and nuzzled her again. He had known. She had told him. And he had believed her, before anyone else did. She remembered it now. The way her daughter had watched everything in silence. The nights when she wouldn't sleep. The way she'd flinch at raised voices. She'd always blamed herself. Thought Anna was just sensitive. Fragile. But the truth had been hiding in plain sight. The man they thought had left them broken had returned. And her daughter had remembered more than anyone knew. And she had told the only soul she trusted with it. Not her. Not a teacher. Not even a diary. But the dog. The puppy who had never left her side. And he hadn't just heard the secret. He had acted on it. Protected her with the same ferocity a mother should have. And now, sitting on the floor beside her daughter and that brave little soul, she finally understood. Anna hadn't just been waiting to be saved. She had chosen her guardian. That night, she watched them sleep. Her daughter curled in a blanket on the couch, the puppy snuggled against her chest like armor. She couldn't sleep herself. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it. The broken hair clip, the man's grin, the puppy standing his ground. But mostly, she saw Anna's eyes. Not afraid. Not anymore. They'd carried something else, knowledge. Truth. Mine? She reached over, touched the puppy's ear. He didn't flinch. Just shifted, pressing closer to the girl. She whispered, "Thank you." He blinked once. Slow. Deep. Heavy. And in that blink was everything. He wasn't just a pet. He was the one who listened when no one else did. He carried her daughter's secret like a soldier carries a fallen comrade. Quiet. Heavy. Unflinching. The next morning came slow, hesitant. Police arrived. Words were exchanged. Statements taken. She told them the man broke in. That he'd been gone. That she had a restraining order. They nodded. Took photos. Asked if the child had seen anything. She shook her head. She was asleep, she said. It was a lie. A small one. A necessary one. One now. Because the real story lived in the space between a child and her dog. A story the world would never understand. How the puppy had stood between her and her fear. How he'd followed the command of a whisper and risked everything. The officer looked at the puppy and chuckled. Looks like he did a good job. The mother just nodded. She didn't say that he had done more than a job. He had done what most adults wouldn't. He had listened. Later that afternoon, as the house fell quiet again, she sat alone with the puppy. Anna napped peacefully upstairs. Oh. The adrenaline had faded. The bruises didn't. She stroked his fur with gentle fingers, tracing the shape of his tiny paw. You knew, she whispered. All along you knew. He didn't move, just nestled closer. She closed her eyes and exhaled. I should have known too. She didn't cry. Not this time. Because somehow he had carried her daughter through a nightmare she herself couldn't face. And in return, she would never let him go. She got up, walked to the kitchen, and opened a drawer. The adoption form sat there, half complete for weeks. She filled it in. Every line. Full name. Permanent home. Family. When she reached the signature line, she paused, then signed with a steady hand. His name bold. Scout. 2 days passed. Quiet ones. The kind that pretended everything was fine. The bruises faded slowly, but the memories stayed sharp. Scout never left Anna's side. He followed her from room to room, like a silent shadow. But she was changing too, sitting taller, smiling a little more. Her voice stronger. Still soft but rooted. Mother noticed it. Noticed the strength that had always been there, now visible. That evening, Anna knelt beside Scout and whispered, "You did it. You kept the secret and you saved us." Scout tilted his head, ears up, tail thumping softly. The mother watched from the doorway, a lump in her throat. Because even if the world never knew what had happened in that house, she would. Anna would. And Scout? He had already known. From the moment she whispered it into his ear, he had known what to do. That night, Scout woke first. Something was wrong. The air shifted, too still. No hum from the heater. No creak from the pipes. Just silence. He stood quickly, ears alert, nose twitching. Downstairs. A scent. Familiar. Dot. Wrong. He padded softly to the top of the stairs and stared into the dark. A flicker. Movement. The back door was open. His fur rose. The man had returned. Again. A final time. Scout growled low, steady, like a distant engine revving. He didn't bark. Not yet. Not until the girl was safe. Not until he was sure. He took the first step down the stairs, quiet, precise. No hesitation. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a battlefield. And Scout wasn't a pet now. He was the first line of defense. The man didn't speak this time. No bravado. No drunken taunts. Just footsteps. Soft. Intentional. Scout crept closer, paws silent against the wood. The man moved toward the stairs. Toward Anna. Scout saw the glint of something in his hand. Metal. Cold. Sharp. Dotty. The air turned electric. He growled louder now, not as warning but as promise. The man froze. "You again," he muttered. "Damn mutt." Scout didn't flinch. Didn't bark. He charged. No hesitation. No fear. Just motion, a blur of teeth, and fur, and fury. The man stumbled back, crashing into the coat rack. The blade clattered to the floor. Scout stood between him and the stairs, growling with thunder in his chest. The man, bleeding and breathless, staggered to his feet. But this time he didn't advance. This time he ran. The mother found him moments later, Scout still growling, standing where the man had been. She followed the open door, the sound of footsteps fading into the night. He was gone. This time, for good. She knelt beside Scout, heart pounding. "You saved her again," she whispered. He turned his head, tongue lolling slightly, chest heaving. She kissed the top of his head. "You saved all of us." He leaned into her. Tired. But not done. Not ever. "Upstairs," Anna called softly. The mother rose and Scout followed. No barking. No celebration. Just quiet. Purposeful. Because true protectors don't ask for thanks. They just return to guard the ones they love. By sunrise the police were back. Tracks in the dirt. Broken locks. They believed her now. They saw the truth laid out plainly. Signs of forced entry, the dropped weapon, the overturned furniture. But what they couldn't see was the most important part. How a little girl whispered a truth too heavy to carry, and a dog took that truth and made it action. No sirens caught that part. No officer took that testimony. But the mother knew. Anna knew. And Scout, he didn't need a badge. His proof was in the way he stood guard, even as they asked questions, even as they packed evidence. When they left, the mother locked the door. The sun was up. The house was whole. And Scout? He lay at Anna's feet, finally resting. But still watching. 1 week later, Scout was still by her side. Through the quiet days and the restless nights, he stayed curled at her feet, or on the rug outside the bathroom, or near the window watching strangers pass. Anna smiled more now. Spoke more too. She giggled at breakfast, whispered secrets into Scout's ear again, but now they were lighter. Like, "I dreamed you were a superhero," or, "I think Mommy sleeps with her eyes half open." And Scout listened. Every time. His head tilted, ears perked, tail thumping like punctuation. He didn't need words. He just needed her voice. The house had changed. It didn't creak the same way. The air didn't hum with dread. Even the silence was different now. It was softer. It felt like healing. Scout had never been to a courtroom, but today he walked into one. Not because he was called, but because Anna asked. "He's part of the story," she said. The judge allowed it. Just this once. Scout sat beside her chair, tail curled, alert but calm. The room was cold. Formal. The man sat across the room in a suit he didn't deserve, his eyes down. He didn't look at Anna. Didn't look at Scout. The mother gave her statement. Firm, steady, no tremble in her voice. When the judge nodded, when the gavel came down, it felt like a gate closing. Not just behind him, but in their lives. Anna leaned down and whispered, "You did it." Scout wagged his tail. Not fast. Just once. Enough. That night, when they returned home, Anna asked if Scout could sleep in her bed. Not at the foot, but up near her pillow. "Like a person," she said. The mother agreed without hesitation. So he climbed up, carefully, and curled around her like a comma in a sentence that was finally finding its ending. She placed her hand on his chest. "You can rest now," she whispered. "It's okay." And for the first time since that night, Scout truly slept. No shifting. No twitching. Just slow breaths and soft dreams. He had carried the weight of a secret too long for a creature so small. But he carried it well. And now, in this still moment, he could finally let it go. The world didn't know. Neighbors waved. The school sent cards. Friends dropped off food. But none of them knew the full story. Not the truth whispered into fur. Not the silent protector who stood between innocence and danger. But that was okay. Because heroes don't need headlines. They need homes. Scout still barked at squirrels, chased his tail, and whined at the door for walks. But every time Anna looked at him, there was something different. A recognition. A knowing. She had grown. Not taller. Not louder. Just stronger. Because sometimes all it takes to survive a storm is one creature who refuses to leave your side. One who hears the truth in your whisper, and answers it with action. Months passed. Seasons changed. The bruises disappeared, and the court orders stayed. The world moved on. But inside that house the story remained, unfolding every day in the rhythm of small things. Scout curling against Anna's feet during homework, chasing soap bubbles in the bath, resting beside her during storm. He never barked at closed doors anymore. He didn't need to. The monsters had names now. And they were gone. The mother framed a photo of the three of them and placed it by the front door. Scout sat beside it every evening, waiting. Not for danger, but for peace. Because once, a little girl had whispered a truth into his ear, and he had turned that whisper into salvation.